all right then, folks. Here we are then, eh? All right. Okay. So I'm gonna give my spicy takes about Judea, aka Israel, and the reason I want to do this because I just saw a video that Caleb Maupin did about showing, a couple of Palestinians, rioting over Israel, and we're not going to start a World War III and this and that. It's just, and the thing is, how LARPy it is. Is that I used to be somewhat more of a Wignat. It was just like, oh yeah, Israel bad, Palestinians good. The thing is, it's deeper than that. Because I said this already, but the thing is that when you want to look at the Israel-Palestine situation, so to speak, you have to look at the so-called solidarity between the Arabic peoples. And they're not solid, they're not together on anything. Whether they are split on religion, whether it's Sunni and Shia Muslims, whether it's the Houthis and, Hezbollah, or, what's going on in Iran versus, the issues of the Wahhabists and the Salafists that go on within Islam. And I'm no expert on Islam at all, so I'm not going to get into that. But it's cringe on that level. It's cringe on the political level because, of course, these countries have failed each other, Syria had the chance to retake the Golan Heights. I want to say in 1973. This is, of course, when Hafez Assad was in charge of Syria, and failed miserably, partly because he ordered some of his generals to come back, and some of them were executed. At least as far as I, so I've heard. So, you can dislike Israel as much as you want to, but the thing is that the the Arabic peoples are hugely divided amongst each other for whatever reason. Same thing with Egypt. The issues is like, past Abdel Nasser, Israel, Egypt has had a tough time. Then of course you can talk about Jordan with King Hussein pretty much just being a British puppet. And if you want to talk about Palestinian injustice, all you have to do is look at Jordan and look how Palestinians have been treated. But of course, that's not talked about that much. It's focused on Israel. And it's, well, they should go back home. And of course, if a conservative said that, or if some Wignat said that, or some white supremacist said that, well, they need to go back home, they'd call you a racist. But then you're going to get mad at Ashkenazi Jews for moving into Israel? Look, man, that's not me defending Israel. Believe me, it's whatever. Israel is built on this Zionist view. It's built on the ideas of people like Theodor Herzl and their book, The Jewish State. And this idea that, well, this is really our land, and go back to Judea and King David and all that. And really, it's like when I hear that that Zarathustrian guy, Zarathustra, the Jewish guy, and he's like, well, actually, Zionism was actually anti-imperialism. And I was like, woo, talk about a spicy take. I'm like, woo. Maybe it was at first. And of course, people like Caleb Maupin will try to cope and be like, well, Israel could have been socialist. That's why, Joseph Stalin supported it. And you had Mapam, I believe. Mapai was the party that David Ben-Gurion was a part of. And Then you had Mapam, which was more of a straight up Marxist Zionist group. The thing is that they still did atrocities to the Palestinians and to the Egyptians and whoever else was there as well. So they were no heroes. The thing is that ultimately they just wanted socialism for the Jews. But that's a whole, like I say, I'm trying to be very careful. I'm trying to be somewhat pragmatic. But basically, it's a complicated issue. And of course, like I say now, with Syria is controlled, and specifically Assad is controlled by Russia. Without Russia, Syria would have just become would be a series of caliphates run by groups like Hayat Tahrir al-Sham and and other Turkish proxies. And instead, basically, there's a stalemate in Idlib province. Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, of course, still gets support. Groups like the Free Syrian Army have been sent to Libya for the Turks to get now the Libyan oil. So that they can create sort of a neo-Ottoman empire. And that's not conspiracy theory. That's if you really do your research, that's what it is. Well, like I say, I was mildly one of these folks who was, a supporter of Assad, this and that. But I think, let's see here. I'm trying to think of what group was he part of. I'm trying to think. Yeah, party. I'm trying to think of what group they were under. I'm trying to think of Damascus, Hafez al-Assad. I think really, I'm trying to be honest and fair about it, is that, really that's what it is. I mean, it goes into a larger issue, which is basically America bad, America imperialist, Russia and China good. And I don't completely feel that way. And of course, I'm American, so I'm going to be biased. Yeah, of course. But I think you have to look at it on a pragmatic level. China's doing blackface. We've seen it. And of course, they're much more subdued about it. But of course, nobody says too much about it. When I believe that the Chinese authorities or someone else nicknamed the part of Guangzhou. Guangzhou, of course, is in southern China. Is the basically Canton, as the British so aptly named it because they couldn't pronounce Guangdong. But the city of Canton, or Guangzhou, or Guangzhou, as you would say in Cantonese, is slightly different. Anyway, the part where the African migrants lived was called Chocolate City. Look that up. I mean, I take that with a grain of salt because that was back when I was watching Serpent ZA. But anyway, if you think that the Chinese are more, progressive or something like that, they aren't that they are some anti-imperialist, anti-fascist group, that is Xiao Fei Hua, at least in my view. Now, I don't necessarily have anything against China or Russia, at least for now. But the thing is that, once again, we fall into this trap. And I believe, even people like, dare I say, Vosh have said this, like, you can't just be anti-American if you don't like America. It's like, I can believe that to a point. It's like, yeah, just because they're against America doesn't mean you should automatically support them. And that's true to a point. I'm not going to completely go down that well, but unfortunately, we fall into these narratives, and then ultimately you can, think about it like Tetris or something like that. It's like you can have an opinion about something, and you can only filter it through so many different filters and different people and different ideas of it. It's like if you ultimately are a Wignat, it's like, oh, okay, well, you could be this sort of Wignat, or, yeah. Or it's like, well, if you support the Palestinian cause, it's like, it doesn't make any sense to me, because ultimately you say, oh, you support Palestine, huh? What do you think about Hamas? Oh, we don't like Hamas, or you'll always get the whole, well, Israel created Hamas, Oh, what do you think about Hezbollah? Oh, we don't like Hezbollah. They're still, Ugh. So ultimately, it's like, oh, we support the BDS, though. We support BDS and what they do. Oh, you mean that thing that's banned in the United States and that, you will lose your job over? Well, once again, it goes back to the whole idea. Expats are cringe. I don't care how, if you're a Palestinian expat or a Palestinian part of the Palestinian diaspora. But it's cringe when guys like you are like, well, we're going to help stop World War III. It's like, look, I hate both of you. Yes, like I can hate the Zionists and hate the cringe Palestinian socialists or these Palestinian Marxist Leninists that will be like, oh, well, if only this group had taken power. Who gives a fuck? You're an idiot. You're both fucking idiots. The Zionists are just full of shit because they think that they can, can continue to use the Holocaust as an example so that they can do whatever the fuck they want. And the Palestinians are idiots because they think that, once they get, Jerusalem back, aka Al-Aqsa, that everything's going to be great. It's like, no, you're both full of shit. I'm just going to, that's the centrist point of view, but it's like, you're both full of shit. While I'm on a rant, I saw a good old Justin King, aka Bo the Fifth Column, talk about apparently Trump is going to be at Mount Rushmore for July 4th. And of course, the protests are already happening. The cops are already there to protect people, blah, 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 blah. And of course, what did Bo the Fifth Column say? Well, he talked about the Sioux tribe. The Sioux, of course, owning that land. I thought he was going to jump into Borgland, what's his name, being a white supremacist and all that business. But, but ultimately he was on this rant about the Sioux need to take over this and that America needs to let them have it. We need to, we need to let them have it fair and clear, and that they can decide what they want to do. It's like, bruh, you live in Florida, so why don't you get the hell out so the Seminoles can have their land back? Or, you know how long that fucking game would be? Once again, it's the same type of retarded attitude that these type of motherfuckers have, these sort of anti-colonialist sorts of folks. It's like, the fuck, you just want people to leave? It's like, oh, it's the same thing with the Boers. They need to go back to the Netherlands. They don't want them. Same thing with the descendants of the French Huguenots. The French don't want them back. They don't want them back. So instead, they, I remember this, some Boers being the farmers, have gone to countries like Georgia, and they've gone to, Russia and everything else. It's so silly to me. I mean, the thing is, ultimately, I hold more of a centrist view on China and Russia. I don't really, look, I realize that the United States is losing geopolitical power. I get that. But it's like, you'll get these idiots who just think, oh, well, China and Russia are going to be better, or whichever uprising person is going to be better. It's like, no, you're a fucking idiot for believing that shit. I'm sure that you guys believe that America was a savior in the Second World War. It's just stupid. And this is why you become kind of black-pilled, and you're just kind of like, I don't give a fuck about any of you motherfuckers. And you realize that a lot of the time, people like that make politics into a popularity contest. They make it into the, oh, this person said this. Oh, this person's anti-Semitic, or it's just fucking stupid. Anyway, I think I'm going to end it there. I hope y'all enjoy it. I may upload something later today. I may not. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, see you later. Goodbye.